Marcus boarded the wrong flight with his 7-year-old daughter after his wife's death. Sitting next to them was Victoria Sterling, a cold CEO who had lost her own child. Neither knew this mistake would save them both and create the family they never expected to find. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Marcus Rivers stood in the bustling airport terminal, his world spinning out of control. The boarding pass in his trembling hand felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Gate 14B. Flight 892 to Chicago. That's what Sarah had written on the note she'd left him before she passed away 3 days ago. But somehow in his fog of grief, he had walked to Gate 14A instead. "Daddy, why are you shaking?" 7-year-old Lily asked, her small hand gripping his tightly. Her brown eyes, so much like her mother's, looked up at him with concern that broke his heart all over again. "I'm okay, sweetheart," Marcus lied, his voice hoarse from crying. "Daddy's just tired." The truth was, Marcus hadn't slept in 72 hours. Not since Sarah took her last breath in that sterile hospital room, leaving him alone to raise their daughter. Not since he had to explain to Lily that mommy wouldn't be coming home anymore. Not since his entire world collapsed around him. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Flight 847 to Seattle," the flight attendant announced cheerfully. Seattle. Not Chicago. Marcus's blood ran cold. Sarah's funeral was in Chicago. Her mother, Rose, was waiting for them. All of Sarah's family would be there to say goodbye. And he had somehow managed to board the completely wrong flight. "Daddy, this isn't right," Lily whispered, looking around the plane with confusion. Mommy's note said Chicago. This lady said Seattle. Panic started to set in. Marcus looked around frantically, wondering if he should get off the plane. But the boarding door was already closing, and the flight attendants were beginning their safety demonstration. His mind, usually sharp and organized, felt like it was wrapped in cotton. Every decision seemed impossible. "Sir, you need to take your seat," a flight attendant said kindly but firmly. "We're about to taxi." With no other choice, Marcus guided Lily down the narrow aisle to their seats. 14A and 14B. The window seat was already occupied by a woman who looked like she had stepped out of a boardroom. Her silver hair was pulled back in a perfect chignon, and she wore a navy blue suit that probably cost more than Marcus made in a month. Her fingers flew across the keyboard of an expensive laptop, completely absorbed in whatever important business she was conducting. "Excuse me," Marcus said quietly as he helped Lily into the middle seat. "I'm sorry if we disturb you." The woman looked up briefly. Her blue eyes were sharp and assessing, taking in Marcus's rumpled clothes, his red-rimmed eyes, and Lily's small, sad face. Something flickered in her expression for just a moment, a crack in her professional armor, before she nodded curtly and returned to her screen. Marcus noticed the nameplate on her laptop bag. Victoria Sterling, CEO, Sterling Enterprises. As the plane began to taxi, Lily pressed her face against the small window between her and the CEO. "Daddy, are we going the wrong way?" "Yes, baby," Marcus admitted, his voice breaking. "Daddy made a mistake. A big mistake." Victoria's fingers paused on her keyboard. She had been reviewing merger documents that would expand her company into 3 new markets, but something about the pain in the man's voice made the numbers on her screen blur together. "What are we going to do?" Lily asked, her voice small and scared. Marcus closed his eyes, fighting back tears. Sarah had planned everything so carefully before she died. She had written down flight numbers, addresses, phone numbers. She had even packed their bags and left notes about what Lily liked to eat and which songs helped her sleep. But Marcus had failed at the very first step. "I don't know, sweetheart," he whispered. "I don't know." As the plane lifted off, Lily began to fidget in her seat. She was trying to be brave, but Marcus could see the confusion and fear in her eyes. She didn't understand why mommy wasn't coming with them. She didn't understand why daddy kept crying. She didn't understand why everything felt so wrong. "Daddy, I'm scared," she whispered. "I know, baby. I'm scared too." Victoria glanced over again. She had spent the last 5 years building walls around her heart, focusing solely on business, avoiding any situation that might remind her of the family she had lost. But there was something about this little girl's quiet fear that penetrated her defenses. 30 minutes into the flight, Lily started to cry. Not the dramatic tantrum of a spoiled child, but the heartbroken sobs of a little girl whose world had been shattered. "I want mommy," she whispered through her tears. "I want to go home. I want everything to be like it was before." Marcus pulled her onto his lap, his own tears falling freely now. He didn't care who was watching. He didn't care about the disapproving looks from other passengers. His daughter was in pain and he had no idea how to fix it. I know, sweetheart. I want mommy too. I want to go home too. But we can't, can we? Lily asked with the devastating intuition that children sometimes possess. No, baby. We can't. Other passengers were starting to stare. Marcus could feel their judgment, their annoyance at having their comfortable flight disrupted by a grieving child. A businessman in the row behind them cleared his throat loudly. A woman across the aisle shook her head in disapproval. That's when Victoria Sterling did something that surprised everyone on the plane, including herself. She closed her laptop. "Excuse me, sweetheart," she said softly to Lily, her voice gentler than anyone had heard from her in years. "What's your name?" Lily looked up with tear-filled eyes, hiccuping softly. "Lily Rivers. This is my daddy Marcus." "Hello, Lily. I'm Victoria." She reached into her expensive leather purse and pulled out a small silver locket that she hadn't looked at in months. "This was my daughter's favorite piece of jewelry. Would you like to see it?" Lily nodded, wiping her nose with her sleeve. Victoria's hands trembled slightly as she opened the locket. Inside was a tiny photograph of a little girl with blonde pigtails and a gap-toothed grin, arms spread wide as if she was trying to hug the whole world. "Her name was Emma," Victoria said, her voice catching. "She would have been about your age now." "She's pretty," Lily said softly. "Where is she?" The question that Victoria had been avoiding for 5 years hung in the air between them. She looked at this little girl with her mother's eyes and her father's nose, and suddenly the truth didn't seem so impossible to speak. "She's in heaven, sweetie. Just like your mommy." Marcus looked at Victoria with new understanding. Behind the corporate armor and the expensive clothes, he saw a mother's pain that mirrored his own. The sharp edges of her professional persona began to soften, revealing someone who had learned to hide her grief behind success and busy schedules. "Emma loved airplanes," Victoria continued, her voice growing stronger as she spoke about her daughter. "She used to say that when people fly in airplanes they're closer to heaven. She said that's why flying feels like magic, because you're up in the clouds where the angels live. Maybe your mommy is watching you right now, making sure you're safe up here where the angels are." Lily's crying began to slow. "Really? You think mommy can see me?" "I think mommies never really leave their little girls. I think they find ways to watch over them and keep them safe, even when we can't see them anymore." "What else did Emma like?" Lily asked, settling back into her seat but keeping her eyes on the locket. Victoria felt a warmth in her chest that she hadn't experienced in years. "Oh, Emma liked so many things. She loved butterflies. She said they were proof that beautiful things could fly. She collected smooth stones from the beach and kept them in a jar by her bed. She always insisted on wearing mismatched socks because she said matching socks were boring. And she loved stories. She made me read her the same 3 books every single night." "What were the books?" Lily asked, genuinely interested now. "The Giving Tree, Where the Wild Things Are, and Love You Forever. Do you know any of those?" "Mommy used to read me Love You Forever," Lily said softly. "She said she would love me forever and always, even when she couldn't be with me anymore." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "Your mommy sounds like she was very wise." "She was the smartest person in the whole world," Lily said with the absolute certainty that only children possess. Marcus watched this exchange in amazement. 20 minutes ago, this woman had been a cold, distant stranger focused only on her business. Now she was patiently comforting his daughter with a gentleness that seemed to come from somewhere deep and genuine. "I lost Emma 5 years ago," Victoria said quietly to Marcus while Lily looked out the window, searching the clouds for angels. "Car accident. A drunk driver ran a red light. She was coming home from her friend's birthday party." "I'm so sorry," Marcus said, meaning it completely. "I threw myself into work afterwards," Victoria continued. "It was easier than dealing with the pain. Easier than facing an empty house. Easier than admitting that my heart was completely broken." How do you keep going?" Marcus asked desperately. "I feel like I'm drowning. Every breath hurts. Every decision feels impossible. I don't know how to take care of Lily without Sarah. I don't know how to be both parents. I don't even know how I managed to get on the wrong flight." Victoria was quiet for a long moment, studying Marcus's face. She saw herself 5 years ago, lost, broken, desperate for someone to tell her that the pain would eventually become bearable. "The first year is about survival," she said finally. "You put one foot in front of the other. You breathe in and out. You show up for your daughter even when you don't know how. And slowly, very slowly, you learn that grief doesn't go away, it just changes shape. It becomes something you carry with you instead of something that carries you away." "I feel like I'm failing her already," Marcus admitted. Look at us, we're on the wrong plane. I can't even get us to Sarah's funeral. You're not failing her, Victoria said firmly. You're here. You're present. You're trying. That's what matters. When the plane hit a patch of turbulence, Lily woke from the light doze she had fallen into against Marcus's shoulder. The plane shook and dipped, and she grabbed for both her father and Victoria instinctively. It's okay, sweetheart, Victoria said, taking Lily's small hand in hers without hesitation. Sometimes planes get a little bumpy when they're flying through clouds, but they always find their way. The pilots know exactly what they're doing. Just like your daddy knows what he's doing even when things feel scary. Are you sure? Lily asked. I'm sure. Do you know how I know? Lily shook her head. Because Emma told me something very important before she went to heaven. She said that sometimes the scariest rides end up taking you to the most beautiful places. She said that grown-ups often think they're going the wrong way, but really they're just taking a different path to where they need to be. As the plane began its descent into Seattle, Victoria made a decision that surprised even herself. For 5 years she had lived in a bubble of professional success and personal isolation. She had convinced herself that she was better off alone, that caring about people only led to devastating loss. But watching Marcus with Lily, seeing their love for each other and their shared grief, had awakened something in her that she thought was dead forever. Marcus, she said as the flight attendants prepared for landing, I know you were supposed to be on a different flight. I have a private jet here in Seattle. I can have my pilot fly you to Chicago tonight. You can still make it in time for Sarah's service. Marcus stared at her. I couldn't possibly ask you to do that. The cost alone. You're not asking. I'm offering. Victoria's voice carried the authority she was accustomed to using in boardrooms, but underneath it was something softer. Money isn't the issue here. Getting you and Lily where you need to be is what matters. But why? Why would you do this for complete strangers? Victoria looked at Lily, who was listening to their conversation with wide eyes. Because 5 years ago when Emma died and I was drowning in my grief, no one threw me a lifeline. Everyone was uncomfortable with my pain. They wanted me to get over it, move on, be the strong CEO they expected me to be. No one sat with me in my darkness. No one told me it was okay to fall apart. I don't want you to go through what I did. Will we see you again after tonight? Lily asked suddenly. The question caught Victoria off guard. She had been thinking practically, get them to Chicago, help them through their crisis, return to her carefully controlled life. But looking at Lily's hopeful face, she realized she didn't want this connection to end. Would you like to see me again? Victoria asked carefully. Yes, Lily said without hesitation. I think Mommy would like you. You're kind like her. And you understand about missing someone you love. Victoria felt tears threatening again. I think I would have liked your mommy very much. 2 hours later, they were walking across the tarmac to Victoria's private jet. The sleek aircraft was nothing like the commercial flight they had just left. Leather seats, polished wood trim, and a crew that treated Victoria like royalty. This is your airplane? Lily asked in amazement. It's one of them, Victoria said, then quickly added, the company owns it. I use it for business travel. But as they settled into the comfortable cabin and the plane prepared for takeoff, this didn't feel like business. Victoria found herself seeing her luxurious lifestyle through new eyes. All of this wealth, all of this success, and she had been profoundly lonely for 5 years. Victoria, Marcus said as Chicago's lights appeared below them, I don't know how to thank you. This kindness, it's more than I could have ever imagined from a stranger. You don't need to thank me, Victoria replied. You and Lily have given me something I didn't even know I was missing. What's that? Hope. Purpose. A reason to care about something beyond quarterly reports and profit margins. The plane touched down at Chicago's O'Hare Airport at 11:30 p.m. Victoria had arranged for a car to take Marcus and Lily to Rose's house, where Sarah's mother was waiting up despite the late hour. As they stood in the terminal preparing to say goodbye, Lily suddenly threw her arms around Victoria's waist. Will you come to Mommy's funeral tomorrow? She asked, her voice muffled against Victoria's suit jacket. Victoria looked at Marcus, who nodded slowly. If you want me there, wild horses couldn't keep me away. And so, the next morning, Victoria Sterling, CEO of a multinational corporation, woman who hadn't attended a funeral since Emma's, person who had spent 5 years avoiding anything that might remind her of loss, found herself sitting in a small church in Chicago, holding the hand of a 7-year-old girl she had met less than 24 hours earlier. Sarah's service was beautiful and heartbreaking. Friends and family shared memories of a woman who had been kind, funny, devoted to her family, and brave in the face of her illness. Marcus spoke about his wife with a love so pure it made Victoria's chest ache. Lily sang a song that Sarah had taught her, her small voice carrying through the church like a prayer. During the reception afterwards, Victoria met Rose, Sarah's mother, who took one look at this elegant stranger and immediately understood what had happened. "You're the angel from the airplane," Rose said, pulling Victoria into a warm hug. "Lily told me all about you. Thank you for taking care of my babies." "They took care of me too," Victoria replied, surprising herself with the truth of it. 6 months later, Victoria had become a regular part of Marcus and Lily's life. She attended Lily's school plays, helped with homework, and taught her about business and independence and the importance of being strong. In return, Lily taught Victoria about joy and wonder and the healing power of unconditional love. Marcus and Victoria grew closer slowly, carefully. Both of them were carrying the weight of tremendous loss, but together they learned that love doesn't replace what you've lost, it creates something new and beautiful alongside it. A year after that terrible, wonderful flight to Seattle, Victoria officially adopted Lily as her granddaughter. Not through blood or marriage, but through choice and commitment and the deep bonds that form when people choose to become family. And 2 years later, when Marcus was ready to love again and Victoria had learned to trust her heart once more, they were married in the same small church where they had said goodbye to Sarah. Rose walked Victoria down the aisle, and Lily was the maid of honor, carrying a bouquet that included flowers for both Sarah and Emma. But it all started on a plane to the wrong city with a grieving father, a scared little girl, and a lonely CEO who learned that sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the most beautiful destinations. As Victoria often told people afterwards, "I thought I was just going to Seattle on business. I had no idea I was actually flying toward the rest of my life."